For 15 years, the Dell XPS has been waiting for its return to glory.
The XPS must be restored. We have to call Robert and fix it.
Oh my god.
Impossible. So here's a clip of the video I posted on YouTube about 5 months ago. I bought this Dell XPS 630 for $40. At the time, I had no idea what it was. It looked like a gaming computer to me. It had a graphics card. This is a GeForce 8900, 2 big fans, a Core 2 Quad Extreme processor, and a 750 watt power supply. I never really used it because when I first plugged it in, it seemed to be a little bit too old to do anything. And I assumed the motherboard was proprietary because it's backwards. And it just sat around for months, and then someone on the Dell group told me that it is just a backwards motherboard. You can install something else. So then I got the idea to remove this board and put in something a little more powerful, not exactly modern, so it's still a legacy build. And so I ended up getting an X58 motherboard. If you're familiar with those, that's the first generation i7s. There's the big fans right there. And it's the only case it would fit in, so I decided to go ahead and rip all the guts out and upgrade it, and let's see how that looks. And I wasn't really sure if it would fit, but actually it does. So now we have an X58 board. I sold the 980X processor and I replaced it with a Xeon 2.6. And this is actually the cooler from here. To my surprise, it actually fit. All I had to do was switch around the mounting points because it's still a Dell part. And I was wondering, I thought, well, could we just put a bigger fan in there? And this one fit perfectly. This is a 120 Thermalright. It's not really attached to anything, it's just kind of zip tied to the mounting points. And then this chipset thing on the original 630 motherboard had a fan. And I was having heat issues with this. This gets very hot. So I put that there. And this case is different. All the airflow comes from the front instead of there's no back fan. So everything's just, this is the old ways the XPS cases used to be in the Precisions. All the flow is from the front. So I guess that would be positive pressure. So I think what I'm going to do is remove this hard drive cage. Looks like you can just unscrew it here. We're not going to have hard drives. Upgrade these fans. There's one here and one here. And then just have like a super fan thing going this way. This card will probably not stay. I'm going to put a 980 Ti, I think, instead that I have. And you don't need these anymore because there's no long cards like this that would go in the slots. That's for the SLI setup. So hopefully we can remove this plastic and just have 2 big fans right here. I want to keep this. I like that part. Hopefully I can keep that. This part I'm not sure, but we'll just have 2 big fans, lots of airflow, clean up the cables, and then we'll have a good legacy old school setup. So we'll be back. And here's a first look with the hard drive cages removed. I put a 140 millimeter fan in the front. There's nowhere actually to mount the fan to, so I have to figure that part out. And then we have the 120 inside the heatsink. It's a really nice heatsink and has a full copper plate. And then the card test fit. So there is space up here. You can actually mount a hard drive in the top. There's one bay for that. And then you can put an SSD over it. So that'll be the plan. The only problem is this controller no longer works. I have to figure out how to set that back up. That controls the front LEDs and the switches. I was thinking about putting an exit fan here, but I'm not sure. There's space for maybe an 80 millimeter. So here's the current status. Not quite done yet. This power supply, I removed the original 700 watt and I wanted to see if an aftermarket would fit. It doesn't fit well. So I think I'm going to put the 700 watt back in. Works out quite well. Nice and cool. And here's the EVGA 980 Ti. There's the adapter. So we got to clean up these cables once I switch the power supply. Now onto the performance. So we have an Intel Xeon X5650, which I bought on eBay for only $6. It starts at 2.6 gigahertz. I bumped it up to 4 gigahertz. Worked no problem. And then we started to get into the extreme overclocking. So here we are at 4.4. Running well. This is the point where we start to get a little bit toasty. So we've got almost 90 degrees under super stress load Cinebench. Trying to push the limit. It's only going to run at 4 on daily use. I was just trying to see how far we could take it, and we're getting up there, 3700. Here we are at 4.5, and I changed some settings to get the temperature down so we're a little bit more respectable. And we're running the same test, still 37. You'll notice that there's a point where increasing the clock does not increase the performance anymore on some processors. So I think we've hit the ceiling. I did get 4.7, but I didn't record that one. So here's my final setup. I went and turned on hyperthreading and lowered the frequency back to 4 gigahertz, and look at the score, 4770. That's very high for a processor that was only 2.6 before. And here's the heatsink. It's pretty nice. So overall, results are very good. And here's a game example, 1080p recommended settings, running 120 FPS. The CPU is at 4 gigahertz, and the graphics card is at stock settings and runs beautifully, not too hot. And so we'll see what the final configuration will be, but so far I'm happy with the results. So the best part about this build is that we really didn't spend any money. So the XPS itself was $40. It didn't come with any hard drives, so I bought a cheap SSD for $15, a 1 terabyte hard drive that I pulled from another purchase, $75 I would estimate for the 980 Ti. The DDR3 that I used was also from the other XPS. The motherboard I purchased for only $30 shipped on eBay, and then $20 for the 2 new fans. And a lot of money not spent. So I would say we stuck the landing. See you next time.